Hello, welcome to another Monday Addiction Recovery, Hope, capital HOPE, and resources. I'm here with the gang from Steps Recovery. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hello.
I'll introduce them in a second. I asked Amanda Wright to if she'd come on the show about a month ago, and we figured out a day, and she had an idea to get her program director, I believe it is, and Pam, right? Mm-hmm. So Amanda, Pam, and then Mitch is here because we're going to talk about recreation therapy, and he is actually in recovery, as clean as he looks. Yeah. But it's amazing what we can do with our lives once we straighten out our lives, right?
Amen.
All right, so what's up?
I said it is amazing.
Yeah, it's cool too. Okay, so like I said, we're talking about addiction and what things can help us and what resources. So tell us, Amanda, about Steps Recovery for a minute, and then get into what is recreation therapy.
So kind of like you said, I'm a therapeutic recreation technician for Steps Recovery Center, and Pam is our program director for all of Steps, both up north and down here, and Mitch is our marketing and admissions down there. So for what we do is we meet with our clients in all of our levels of treatment a couple times a week, and we're basically kind of filling that disconnect that's in the lives when you're in your addiction.
Yeah.
And we're going over, either reconnecting with inner child or getting new experiences and just trying to find those ways to maintain a healthy lifestyle and kind of gain that overall well-being.
I love it, and we've talked about that on previous shows. Is the opposite of addiction isn't recovery; it's a connection.
Right.
And that's well known to everyone. It's actually being connected because we're so disconnected.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are some of the things? What is recreation therapy?
So, like in your addiction, you're very rigid,
Hey.
You're kind of doing the same thing over and over and over, and we get really stuck in our addictions.
Mm-hmm.
So we love the modality of recreational therapy because we come in and we really start getting them uncomfortable, and we start exposing them to things that are new and different. They have to learn to start adapting and being flexible and preparing them to step back out into that community, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of what we're doing is the connection piece, which you just said.
Uh-huh.
It's the opposite of addiction is connection. The other thing I think sometimes gets underestimated is the sober fun component.
I love it.
How many times do people come in and they're like, show me something better than our drug.
Yeah.
Show me that I can have a better time than that, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and as rec therapists, we're like, heck yeah, bring it on. We'll take that challenge.
I'll take it.
And we love that challenge because as we see them start to clear up and start to make those connections in their brain and their physiological again, that we see that they start to experience sober fun on a whole new level that they've never experienced before. It's a different experience.
I love it. What are some of the what are some things you do for recreation therapy? What are the, like, is it sports or is it activities?
Yeah, it's a wide range.
Yeah, it definitely, we kind of try to find that balance between things that you can do every day with your family, whether that be, go down and toss around a football or have board games, to paddle boarding and rock climbing and tubing, and try to give them a really wide range. Oh, always pickleball.
Amanda and I have talked about pickleball.
Yes, all day, every day.
That's my drug. That's like a straight up addiction for me.
And you need to talk to Mitch over here about pickleball because he is the master.
All right.
Pickleball.
We'll have to play one day. But yeah, so those are activities. And like you said, Pam was talking about it. Things that we're not used to, that we're uncomfortable with, is out of the normal of an addict in recovery. Because an addict in recovery is basically promising tomorrow they're going to straighten out their lives as long as they have what they need today. Mm-hmm. And so you're making them venture out.
We are, and it's self-discovery, right? It's like reconnecting to things that you were once passionate about because you've forgotten about them. Right. And then it's discovering those things that you haven't learned about. And I always like to compare it to when we're children and how as little kids we're always exploring. We're going from one thing to the next thing and to the next. But as adults, we get all these responsibilities and we start to get stuck, right? And addictions that even more so that you're stuck. But we want to extend a whole smorgasbord of activities to them, from things that are adventurous like rock climbing to paddleboarding out on the lake, down to pickleball, and then maybe doing some painting in the park and do things that are more mindful. And we want to give them that exposure so they can find that connection and start finding their purpose again. I'm not going through addiction for nothing. There's a purpose and reason. And am I going to connect to that and start using it as I move forward? Is a big piece of it as well.
I love it.
Yeah, I think a big thing too is like your life's not over, like the fun's not stopping because you're no longer getting high.
Yeah.
And I think it's about finding those natural highs and those things that still excite you.
Right. And I think that was for me is I didn't go to recovery for, I don't know how I did it without it, because I think it'd be easier without it, but it's possible without it. But I remember the first 2 years of my recovery, everything was a first.
Yeah.
And so it was exciting. Everything I did was, this is the first time I'm walking down the street to the grocery store sober. This is the first time I'm doing this sober. You know, going to a movie, going golfing. I mean, everything was a first. And so it is exciting, and it's cool to see these addicts as I watch them, as I play a part in the recovery community. You get to see them come in from the first meeting and they're so sick, and they won't talk and they won't open up, and then they start doing fun things. They start to know a couple people and they start adjusting, and all of a sudden their lives are flourishing.
Yep.
That's what it's all about.
It is. It is.
Mitch, tell us from your experience, what's the difference between a recovery without recreation therapy and a recovery with recreation therapy?
So I've done both, and when I went through treatment where rec therapy was integrated, it was so beneficial for me because, I mean, up until then, if I'm going to have to go through life not having fun, then I might as well still be getting high and still drinking. So I absolutely have to be able to have fun in recovery. So when I first went through this last time, it was about September of 2017, and I didn't like rec therapy at first because I was so used to just isolating, sitting at home, or, you know, and just using my drug and just having that intense high, and that was my fun.
Yeah.
And that's what I did for 9 years, was just use and drink and use and drink and use and drink. So the idea of going on a hike wasn't fun at all, because like you said, you come in, you're sick. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to be in the sun. I just wanted to be in a room with the curtains drawn and just using.
Yeah.
And so it took a while before rec therapy was fun, but luckily I was lucky enough to be in a group that I was willing to be a little bit vulnerable with, so that I could start to enjoy the experiences. And then by the end, all I wanted to do was play. I didn't want to even, sit in groups anymore. I just wanted to go out and play.
Right.
And so it was just so important for me. And so still today, I still go out and play, do those things. And so it's part of my recovery process. I went out and bought my own pickleball gear, and I, play with my friends and family outside of all this. So
yeah,
I love it.
Stay busy.
Yeah.
That's what I got to do too.
Right.
And I, even almost 6 years into my recovery, and I still get into days, especially when it's cloudy, where I don't want to do nothing and I want to isolate. And that's my moment. My wife kicks me in my butt and says, "Let's go." And it's better for me to get up and get out, because, one day turns into 2 and 2 days turns into a week, and you might be sober, but dang it, you're miserable and you're isolating, and it's not a good place for us.
Yeah.
So I love to have activities that I can do.
Yeah.
I dig it.
I think that if you're isolating and, kind of like we were saying, disconnecting from other people, it's, for myself, it's really only a matter of time before I go back out.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I just want to make myself feel good now, if I isolate for so long. But the high I get from going out and spending time with other people and doing activities far outweighs any high that I've gotten from drugs or alcohol. And it's real.
Yeah.
It's a real feeling. It's not a synthetic, instant, because a lot of times I had to earn it. I had to get out there and work on the wall as I'm rock climbing, things like that.
Yeah.
So it's rewarding.
Like you said, in recovery, the good thing about it is after you get so far in, you have emotions, and the bad thing is you have emotions.
Yeah.
But you start to embrace those feelings, and you start to enjoy the feelings of doing something and succeeding and maybe failing. You actually enjoy not making it to the top of the hill, and to try again, the ability to try again.
Yep.
And you're open to that instead of just, walking away.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's rewarding to go out and do these activities. It's not hard to go buy a bag of drugs.
Yeah.
It's not.
Nope.
You know, and you don't feel good about yourself. And another thing about rec therapy is that I started to have self-worth again and self-respect, which turned into self-love, and that's so important.
Absolutely. That's a good point, because you know, I always talk about the word hope, and when I came into recovery, I was hopeless, and so I think that's a lot of addicts is we're hopeless, and watch them get that spark of a little bit of hope and open that door a little bit, and it just swings wide open.
Yeah.
Amanda, what have you seen? I know you're not. I'm sure you've got your issues with life and addiction problems, but not so much the drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. I always say everyone's got something that they're, you know, if it's too much Coca-Cola or too much chocolate or something, I don't know what it is, but we all have something that we could work on.
Sure.
But what's your outlook on recreational therapy of an outsider looking in to watch them from day 1 to week 6?
Well, Mitch kind of touched on it, because, you know, how you were talking about how you do come in kind of hopeless and lacking that self-worth and that self-love. And I think that one of our main goals is to get our clients to a place where, through challenging them and through letting them feel those natural dopamine spikes that last, unlike when you're using drugs, that they find things that work for them so they can initiate some self-care in their life, so that when life's getting so chaotic, you start seeing them be like, hey, like, I've got a lot on my plate. I need to back away for a minute, and I need to go on a run to clear my head. Or I need to get my friends together and we need to go have a lake day. And just finding those things that really work for them, and understanding that what works for you might not work best for someone else, and to just really make that a part of your life. Like for me, it's rock climbing.
Yeah.
I'm terrified every single time I do it. But I will never say no to getting out there and challenging myself. And it always ends up being like a really spiritual, like, church experience out there.
Yeah, it is spiritual. And I love how you talked about balance. Is if you're going too much in life and you get caught up in it, you've got to, sometimes I have to take a step back and say, I need to get some balance and not do this so much, and do a little bit about, it's not about money. It's not about, you know, if we don't have any of that, if we don't have balance.
Right.
Pam,
Right.
is it, I don't know about Steps Recovery. Do they come in different stages? And so maybe the person that's 4 weeks into their recovery, and there's one guy that's 1 day into their recovery, does that person that's 4 weeks into their recovery in recreation therapy, do they help the one that's 1 day open up a little bit?
When they come in on residential, and so they may be there about 30, 45 days, or maybe a little bit longer. Then they go into day treatment, and then to ILP. So rec therapy, we're in residential and we're in day treatment. Okay. So it's kind of a fun process to watch their connection to these activities and to themselves over that time, because by the time they get to day treatment, they're opened up, they're really understanding things, and we like to put more on them with planning and preparing activities, because we want them to be able to counteract their boredom. Boredom's a huge trigger, right?
Yeah,
huge one. And
having nothing to do is not good
horrible.
For me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for them to be able to have the skill set to be able to plan and follow through with something and not self-sabotage it, and have that confidence that I can go out and do this and be okay. And the other thing is, I love seeing these guys bust their beliefs and bust these false beliefs, let me say, and these limitations they put on themselves, right? Yeah. They put a little bit of work, like Mitch was saying, into it. All of a sudden, the reward is so much greater. And the payoff of like, hey, it may take a little bit more work to get to the top of that climb, but how much his confidence is going to grow when he gets up there. And he'll create independence and freedom from that. And so the more they engage, it's cool to see that.
That's awesome. It brings a lot of hope. I hope someone out there hearing this, get a hold of someone, get your help, and you'll, no matter how bad, what trips me out as the addict, you can tell them, I got an answer for you. You can go to Steps Recovery or Lionsgate or whatever, and you can check in, and they're going to take you in. You're going to be in there 30, 45 days, and they're like, well, I can't lose my job. Yeah. Well, I can't, I'll get a divorce, or I can't. And I think to them, you have to, or you're going to not have any of that.
Right.
But it's not our thinking.
Right.
It's like, I could help. I wish I could do it for every one of them out there, because I got the answers. I know how it works. But darn it, oh man, if you're out there and you're listening and you're on that fence, reach out, check in somewhere, and I promise you, 6 months from now, you're gonna go, wow, why didn't I do that a year ago?
Right.
Right. I've seen it a million times.
Yeah, that happened to me. I would get in these moments where I'm like, okay, I probably could use some help, but I don't want to lose my job, or I don't want to lose my apartment, and this and that. And then I lost everything. Yeah. I still lost the job. You know, ultimately, I was living in a car. I was homeless in Arizona, just doing drugs, and you know, my family didn't want anything to do with me because I was just a burden. You know, and so if I would have taken recovery seriously and just done it right the first time, then I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, what ifs? But you're exactly where you're supposed to be.
I think
I
so
believe
too.
that.
But I see what you're saying. You know, people are like, well, I'll lose this, but I did.
Yeah.
You know, because
you're gonna they're gonna
lose
too.
It anyway.
They're gonna too if they continue in their addiction. It gets worse. It's progressive. It doesn't get better. So thinking that I'll do it in 6 months when I get this and this happens, then I'll check in. It doesn't work that way because you're always going to be you're always going to be going, well, now I need to do this and this, and then I will get help. You know, I knew for 25 years I was an addict. I knew for 25 years I had no problem admitting it. It was just doing something about it.
Yeah.
You know, I was stuck, surviving. That's all you are doing.
Right.
But I was just trying to give hope out there to someone.
Right.
You know.
Absolutely.
So, Pam, tell us, what's on your mind? What do you got out there?
I'm listening. I mean, because we deal a lot with the early recovery, right, and getting them motivated. Because everybody has such external perspectives coming in, right? I'm here because I've been in jail. I'm here because I blew out my relationships financially. I don't have that anymore. So they come into treatment, and we just want to bring this into internal. We want them to be intrinsically motivated when they leave to do the things that they're being taught. Yeah. But we can see that through recreation, and even as Mitch has been talking, where it does become more internal, and they're getting motivated on their own, independent of family and everything else, so they can keep their recovery, right? And making that connection with the 12 steps.
I was going to say, is there a 12-step program in your place?
There is.
Because that's what helped me.
It's huge.
I tell everyone I'm an idiot at life, so I live my life numbers 1 through 12. Yeah. And if I'm in a bad mood, I better know which number to go to. And then and once I recognize which number I'm at, then I got to go to the other numbers to figure out. And then I get out of it, and I'm like, glad I recognize that. Now I have the tools. You know, now I have the tools that I was taught, and I can use them, and now I'm out of the situation a lot faster than going into a rut, getting high, and just checking out on life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and you mentioned the resources, too. And so, you know, Amanda's playing an addict to athlete with the softball.
Yeah.
And
resources. Addict to athlete has been huge in kind of showing, I guess, me the way and all of that. And so, you know, now we're getting into sober softball and trying to set up a pickleball tournament coming soon. So just, you know, trying to, I think it's easy for me to implement all of this in my life because I know I'll go insane if I don't, and that I'll just lose all my drive. Yeah. So just making those things available for everyone else has been a lot of fun to do.
Let me ask you this, Amanda. Is there like a graduation process that you have a, what do they call it when they initiate someone to go into the addict to athlete, or can you go up there and look them up and say, I want to join?
So I'm not actually part of
addict athlete?
Yeah. Okay. So I go and I get involved in there, but I'm not on like the committee for it, but I know that they do those weekly meetings, and all is welcome to come in and join in on that. You know, they want everyone to come, and they're so much fun and always doing different things, volleyball and running and a bunch of different stuff.
Oh man, sounds like fun.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Where's Steps located here in Southern Utah?
So right on Bluff Street, we've got our main facility there.
So at 1085 South Bluff Street is our outpatient location, and then we have a residential location on Sugarleo Road in Bloomington. Yeah,
I love that place. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
It's like a mansion.
It's a pretty house.
I love it because these places actually they set up a peaceful environment for people to get their help. so they don't have the stresses of the world. They can actually check out and look outside and see red cliffs and have a time to not be so in chaos.
Yeah, and it's not like a hospital setting where you kind of feel like confined. It's really open and it's very homey.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, and people wanting to help people.
Yeah.
So, Mitch, you go from being the addict to working in the. What made you choose that?
So, I don't know. I guess the people who helped me get clean and sober had such an impact on my life that I wanted to be able to do that myself. And so, I don't know. It's kind of a dream job. This is pretty cool. I really love what I do. I get to wake up every day, and every day is chaotic. Every single day. I mean, I have my little planner. I'm like, okay, this is what the day looks like, and it never goes like that. And that's
no expectations.
No expectations.
That's the biggest. That's another saying I love. No expectation.
Yeah, exactly. But the owner of the company approached me, and I was doing auto glass at the time with my dad, and he approached me, and I had been recommended from people who I, like counselors that I went through the program with, and I took it, and I love what I do. I love being on the front lines, helping people out, and I'm in real estate. And if it was my dream job, would actually be to be working in a facility, and I'd love to go to school. That was Dean Beatty for this college here, and I've asked him, he's a friend, and I always ask him, are we getting a degree to get a substance abuse counseling? And so, because I'd like to go to a couple classes and see if I could get a degree in 15 years or something. Yeah. I could be Tommy Boy of Dixie State. There you go.
But because I already have a career that feeds my family, it would be too hard to. But I'd love to venture down that, because it is. I in real estate, I picture addiction recovery, working in that as like new construction. It's bloody and it's all over, but once it comes to completion and everything, the colors join, everything, the yards put in, you're just like, this is beautiful. And that's rewarding, huh? Yeah,
it's so rewarding, because I work on all three levels, from residential to day treatment and intensive outpatient. And so I'll see someone coming in, they overdosed last week, and they're, like you said, hopeless. They're just beaten down. And then I get to see the whole transition. When they do the whole thing, it's so rewarding. It's so awesome to see, because, the person that I meet at the very beginning is not the same person.
Sometimes do they come in and don't want to be there?
Oh, yeah. I didn't want to be there. I just wanted to get out of jail.
Yeah.
And so, like Pam was saying, it has to be an internal job. It has to be an inside job. And it took a few weeks for that to happen. And one of my therapists, Caprice Compton, she worked with me on values, and I found out that one of the feelings that I hate the worst is feeling worthless. And that's how I always felt when I was out using and drinking. I always felt worthless. Yeah. And so I had to find out what value I needed to not feel worthless. And to me, that's purpose. That doesn't really mean anything without action. And so my action is contribution, and that's how I feel purpose today, whether that be at work, whether that be with my friends, or, I show up for my family all the time, just contributing to everyone around me. And the same thing as service. I'm active in AA, so contribution gives me purpose, so I don't feel worthless, and I just want to keep on going.
Wisdom. Dang, that's smart stuff, dude. And you're doing service right now for coming on here, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, no,
hopefully we're helping someone out there. Yeah. Pam, parting word, 1 minute, wrap up.
I would just say that it doesn't stop there in treatment. It just keeps on going. Both of these guys serve on our alumni committee, and we keep connecting into the community and keep integrating. Yeah. And so whether it's those activities or getting together as an alumni committee, you don't have to be afraid that when you leave that you're dropped. You're not. You're connected, and it continues to go on. You're a part of the family.
I love it. And one of my favorite things is watching addicts in recovery out in the community doing good.
Yes.
There's no better person out there doing more for the world than those people. They're doing it with passion. They're doing it with purpose, and they're doing it with the best of hearts, saying, I want to be here because I want to, and I don't want nothing in return. I just want to help.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing about recovery for me.
Amen.
Amanda, Thanks for agreeing to come on and getting this perfect team together from the Steps, Mitch and Pam. I'm grateful for you all to come on. Come on anytime. Let me know if you'd like to come on again. If you have any events, let's bring them on the radio, and we'll announce them, and it'd be great.
Nice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time. Thank you, listeners. Like, share, comment on our Facebook page, Radio St. George, and listen on 93.1 FM, Dixie, Radio Dixie, on Saturdays and Sundays at 6 a.m. Thank you.